Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving straight into an incredible explainer that actively diagnoses your exact English proficiency level, right here, right now. Whether you feel like you're literally just starting to find your footing or you're aiming for that flawless, near-native mastery, knowing exactly where you stand is the absolute crucial first step for your learning journey. So let's take this ultimate challenge together, using our source material as a guide, and see exactly where you stand on the language mountain. Okay, let's look at the roadmap for today. 1. The CFR framework explained. 2. Surviving the beginner levels. 3. Tackling the intermediate levels. 4. Mastering the advanced levels. And 5. Figuring out exactly what your level is. So, part 1. The CFR framework explained. To truly appreciate what these levels actually mean, we really need to understand where they come from. This framework, the CEFR, which stands for the Common European Framework of Reference, was developed by the Council of Europe way back in the 1990s. The whole goal? To create a standardized way to measure language proficiency across a highly multilingual continent. Before this, a beginner in France might have had a completely different skill set than a beginner in Germany. The CEFR changed all of that, and it spread like wildfire to become the global gold standard for language assessment. It formally divides English ability into 6 distinct tiers. First up, we have our A levels, A1 and A2, which are the basic users. Then right in the middle, B1 and B2, your intermediate independent users. And finally, C1 and C2, the advanced proficient users. Reaching C2 represents a near-native level of language mastery. So, having this map in mind perfectly sets the stakes for our diagnostic test today. Moving on to part 2, surviving the beginner levels. Let's do this. The source material starts us off at base camp, the absolute beginner, A1 level. At this stage, communication is entirely about immediate needs, familiar everyday expressions, and super basic phrases. Let's look at our first challenge. Fill in the blank. She blanks to read books every day. Take a second. Think about your options here. Is it like, likes, liking? And the correct answer is likes. She likes to read books every day. Now, why on earth does this specific grammar point trip up so many non-native speakers? Well, it's because English verb conjugation is generally incredibly simple. I run, you run, we run, they run. The verb barely changes, right? But suddenly, when we hit the third person singular, he, she, or it, in the present simple tense, we have to add that pesky S. It's a grammatical anomaly. Because it breaks the standard pattern, your brain naturally just wants to drop the S. So mastering this is a vital first step on the mountain. Now let's step it up just slightly to the A2 level. We're moving beyond those immediate present tense needs and starting to look at conditional future scenarios, essentially cause and effect. Fill in the blank. If you study, you blank the test. Take a quick second to think about how we correctly phrase the outcome of this specific condition. The answer is, will pass. If you study, you will pass the test. This is known as the first conditional, and it kind of acts as the logic circuit of the English language. It bridges a present possibility, like studying, with a highly probable future reality, passing the test. It's a structure you absolutely need if you want to negotiate, make plans, or warn someone about a consequence. If you got that one right, you're building a fantastic foundation. If you navigated those questions smoothly, congratulations, you have officially survived the beginner levels. But what does operating at an A2 level actually look like in the real world? Well, think of it as the ultimate survival tier. If you were dropped into a foreign city, you could comfortably order food at a restaurant without having to just awkwardly point at a menu. You could ask for directions to the train station, make a simple purchase, or introduce yourself to a stranger. You aren't quite ready to, debate philosophy or write a complex essay, but you have the absolutely crucial tools required to exist and function in an English-speaking environment. Part 3. Tackling the intermediate levels. Things are about to get interesting. The source material now pushes us into B1 territory. We are officially moving from just surviving to actually conversing. And a huge part of conversing is passing on information, what I like to call the gossip tense. So imagine someone says to you, I have to work tomorrow. How would you correctly report that exact sentence to a third person? Reported speech is notoriously difficult for learners because it literally forces your brain to perform mental gymnastics with time. Think about how the tenses and the time expressions need to shift here. And this brilliantly illustrates the mechanics of the backshift rule in English grammar. The direct speech is, I have to work tomorrow. But when reported, it becomes, he said he had to work the following day.
Because the moment of speech has already passed, we have to take a step backward in time grammatically. Notice how the present obligation have to shifts back to the past tense had to. Plus, time is relative. Tomorrow from yesterday is actually today, so tomorrow transforms into the relative phrase the following day. It's a complex dual processing task, and getting it right shows really strong B1 competence.
Okay, slow down a bit here because the source material warns us that as we hit the B2 upper intermediate level, things start to get really tricky. We are now dealing with subtlety and emotion. Fill in the blank. He blank have said that to you, but at least he apologized. We're looking for a modal of past regret here. Think carefully about how we express criticism about an action that has already happened.
The correct answer is shouldn't. He shouldn't have said that to you, but at least he apologized. This structure is incredibly useful because it captures a very universal human experience, doing something foolish. We use should not have, followed by a past participle, to express heavy criticism or deep regret about a past action that simply cannot be changed. Think of it as the exact grammar you use when you realize you shouldn't have sent that angry text message at 2 in the morning. It's highly emotional, nuanced language.
Hitting intermediate status is a massive milestone. In the real world, a solid B2 level is often the benchmark required to work in an English-speaking corporate office or to study at a university abroad. It means you can sit in a meeting and actually defend your opinion. You can write a polite but firm professional email, and you can probably watch your favorite English TV show without relying too heavily on the subtitles. You have achieved independence in the language. But the source material has one final peak for us to climb.
Part 4. Mastering the Advanced Levels. Welcome to the big leagues.
Welcome to the C levels. Let's kick this off with a highly technical C1 question. Honestly, just hearing the grammatical terminology here is enough to make anyone break a sweat. Passive perfect infinitive. I mean, it sounds more like a dense legal document than a casual conversation, right? Take a moment to try and visualize what a layered grammatical structure like that actually looks like in a practical sentence. Now, what's really fascinating here is seeing this complex terminology in action and understanding why we even use it. The correct structure is, Alejandro should have been informed of these changes. We have the modal should, the perfect have, and the passive been informed. But wait, why not just say someone should have informed Alejandro? Well, because C1 level English is highly diplomatic. By layering multiple grammatical concepts into one fluid thought, we shift the focus entirely. We aren't pointing fingers at the person who made the mistake. We are focusing on Alejandro, the person who experienced the mistake. It's an incredibly advanced, sophisticated way to communicate workplace realities without assigning direct blame. And now, we have arrived at the ultimate C2 boss fight question. At the C2 level, we are no longer just testing raw grammar mechanics, we are testing the subtle, stylistic flavor of the language. Fill in the blank. His lack of blank and general unhappy nature contrasted sharply with the extreme composure and humor of his brother. What specific descriptive noun fits perfectly here to balance this comparative sentence? The missing word is charisma. His lack of charisma and general unhappy nature. By the way, the source material notes that correct pronunciation is key here for those extra points. It's charisma with a hard K sound. This question tests something called collocation, words that just naturally sound right together based on a lifetime of exposure to a language. Native speakers rely heavily on this gut intuition rather than actively processing grammatical rules. Recognizing the exact vocabulary required to maintain a sophisticated flow and rhythm of this sentence means you are operating at the very peak of language proficiency.
Part 5. What is your level?
Before we wrap up, I want to share a deeply ironic and honestly very comforting insight from our source material. Lots of native English speakers would actually fail to achieve a C2 level in a formal exam setting. Crazy, right? How is that possible? It's because native speakers acquire language implicitly through total immersion from birth. If you ask an average native speaker to define a passive perfect infinitive or explain the back-shifting rules of reported speech, they will likely just stare at you blankly. They don't know the rules. They just instinctively know what sounds right. A C2 exam, however, often requires explicit, highly technical knowledge of those implicitly acquired rules. It highlights the beautiful absurdity of language learning. Sometimes, the students studying the mechanics understand the engine much better than the people just driving the car. So as we conclude our climb up this linguistic mountain, I leave you with this question.
Did you beat the C2 level today? Or did those passive infinitives and advanced collocations reveal a few areas where it might be time to hit the books again? Navigating a language is a lifelong journey of constant discovery. If you really want to know your standing with complete, definitive accuracy, make sure to check the description box for the link to the full, in-depth, free online test directly from our source material. Take your time, test your limits, and see exactly where you are on the map. Keep exploring, keep practicing, and I'll see you next time.